I never thought I would find myself in this situation, but here I am, staring down the barrel of betrayal. My name's Mike, and I was married to Laura for nearly 6 years. We were the picture-perfect couple, or at least that's what I thought. We shared passions for fitness, adventure, and even had a pretty solid friendship. But lately, something felt off. It was subtle at first: a few late nights at work, a sudden obsession with her phone, and a change in her demeanor that I couldn't quite put my finger on. As I stood in the kitchen one evening, I noticed her scrolling through her phone, a big smile plastered on her face. I asked her who she was texting, and she quickly brushed it off, saying, "Just some friends from work." That didn't sit right with me. Laura had never been secretive with her phone before, and I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that crept into my gut. I decided to give her some space, but I found that my mind kept wandering back to that moment. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and I had started noticing even more changes. She was going to the gym more often, but not with me. It was usually just a quick kiss goodbye as she rushed out the door, looking more put together than usual. I felt something was brewing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. One Saturday, while cleaning the garage, I stumbled upon an old gym bag that didn't belong to me. I opened it, half expecting to find half-full water bottles or a forgotten pair of shoes, but instead I found something that stopped me cold. Inside the bag was a string of receipts from a fancy restaurant downtown. The dates lined up with the nights Laura had been working late. My heart raced as I quickly flipped through the contents. There were gym towels and what looked like a couple of workout shirts. But what struck me the most were the little notes tucked into the pocket, sweet nothings that made my stomach churn. "Can't wait to see you again," and "last night was amazing" were scrawled across several sheets. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That was the moment it all hit home. The woman I thought I knew, my wife, my partner, had been slipping away from me, and with my rival Jake, no less. Jake was the type of guy who always seemed to win at everything. He had the perfect body, the charm, and competed at the local level. I had always thought of him as a friend and a fellow gym enthusiast. To think he'd been cozying up to Laura behind my back was infuriating. With my heart in my throat, I decided to confront her. I waited until she got home that evening, my mind racing through all the possible scenarios. When Laura sauntered in, glowing and radiant, I felt a mix of anger and heartache. I took a deep breath and said, "We need to talk." The way her smile faltered told me she knew something was wrong. "About what?" she asked, immediately on the defensive. "About Jake, about the restaurant, about the notes," I spat out, my voice trembling with hurt. She froze, eyes wide, before quickly recovering with a sneer. "Are you serious? You're actually going to accuse me of cheating? How dare you?" She huffed, crossing her arms as if that would shield her from the truth. "Laura, I found the bag. I saw everything. You can't lie." "Your way out of this," I said, my heart racing. Her face turned a shade of crimson, but she quickly turned it into a mask of indignation. "Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. You always jump to conclusions," she retorted, but I could see the crack in her facade. As we stood there, the air thick with tension, I felt an overwhelming wave of betrayal wash over me. She was trying to spin this into something trivial, but my heart broke a little further each time she tried to dismiss my pain. The emotional roller coaster was dizzying. Anger surged through me, followed by a wave of sadness. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built together? It was a sharp realization that I was losing the person I had invested so much time and emotion into. This was not just about betrayal, it was about the trust we had violated. With every word she threw back at me, I felt the fabric of our relationship unraveling. As she continued to deny everything, or twist it into some sort of misunderstanding, I had a decision to make. I realized that my initial reflection was about vengeance, but over time, it morphed into a quest for self-empowerment. I could either let this destroy me or turn it into fuel for something greater. I knew that I had to channel my pain and anger into something productive. I was going to crush Jake in the next competition, and I would make sure Laura was there to see it. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to regret picking the wrong man, and to realize what she had lost. As the reality of the situation began to settle, I started devising a plan. It was time to reclaim my power. The aftermath of the confrontation was suffocating. Laura stormed out of the house that night, leaving me alone with the chaos swirling inside my mind. I was filled with a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, anger, sadness, and a simmering resolve that slowly started to take shape. I knew one thing for certain: I couldn't let this ruin me. I had to find a way to channel this pain into something productive. As I mulled over my next steps, I decided to focus on my training. I had been a competitive athlete for years, but I had let my passion drift into the background as my relationship with Laura took precedence. It became clear that I needed to refocus my energy on myself and my fitness goals. I dusted off my gym bag, powered through my workouts, and began obsessing over my training regimen again. I was determined to enter the upcoming regional championship, a competition that would draw athletes from all over the area. It was exactly the stage I needed to confront Jake and showcase my own strength. Naturally, I knew he would compete as well. He always did. The thought of facing him head-on reignited a fire inside of me that I hadn't felt in years. Every day, I pushed myself harder. I hit the gym with a fervor I hadn't experienced in a long time. I sought advice from trainers, adjusted my diet, and immersed myself in the world of competitive training. I needed to be in peak condition, not just to compete, but to crush Jake's ego while I did it. I imagined the look on Laura's face when I stood on that podium triumphant, while he sulked in defeat. As the weeks passed, my resolve only grew stronger. It was a strange twist of fate that, in the pursuit of revenge, I found a renewed sense of purpose. I started meeting up with old friends from the gym, ones I had neglected while focusing on my relationship. They were supportive and inspired me to push even further, offering insights and encouragement that added fuel to my fire. In the meantime, Laura tried to reach out. I ignored her texts and calls, focusing solely on my training. I knew she was feeling the weight of her actions, but I wasn't ready to entertain her excuses. I could see her social media updates filled with photos of her and Jake, trying to portray a happy relationship. The sight of their smiles infuriated me, but it also galvanized my motivation. I reminded myself that I would show her what she had given up, how far I could go, and what I was truly capable of. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. The atmosphere was electric, filled with athletes and spectators buzzing with excitement. As I walked through the venue, the familiar smell of sweat and determination surrounded me. I spotted Jake warming up in the corner, that arrogant smirk still plastered on his face. He was oblivious to the storm that had been brewing within me. As I moved through my warm-up routine, I felt a surge of adrenaline course through my veins. I was focused, determined, and ready to demolish any doubts that crept in. I looked out into the crowd, scanning for Laura. Sure enough, there she was, sitting with a few of her friends, her eyes darting nervously between me and Jake. I could see the realization wash over her face. I was there, and I was ready to fight. When the competition began, I poured every ounce of energy into each round. I was relentless. I could hear the crowd cheering as I pushed myself to the limit. With every rep, every lift, I could feel the weight of my hurt lift off my shoulders. The anger I had channeled into my training transformed into pure strength. When the final event came around, I found myself squared off against Jake. The tension in the air was palpable. I could see Laura in the stands, her face a mix of concern and hope. I took a moment to breathe, blocking everything out but the sound of my heartbeat. And then it was time. The competition began. And it felt like the world around me faded into the background. I was in my zone, focused only on winning. As we battled for the top score, I could feel Jake faltering. The pressure of our rivalry weighed heavily on him, and I seized the opportunity to push through. The roar of the crowd grew louder, urging me on as I delivered performance after performance, emerging as the clear winner. When the final scores were announced and I stood on that podium, my heart soared. I looked out at the crowd, locking eyes with Laura. Her expression was a mixture of disbelief and regret. I could see the realization there. She had picked the wrong man. The guy who had always been in the shadows was now standing in the spotlight, victorious. As I accepted my medal, I felt a rush of satisfaction wash over me. This was more than just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my identity, my strength, and my confidence. It was about proving to myself that I was capable of so much more than I had allowed myself to believe. In that moment, I learned a valuable lesson about resilience and self-worth. I had channeled my pain into something that empowered me rather than tearing me down. As I stepped off the podium, I knew that the journey wasn't just about beating Jake or making Laura regret her choices. It was about embracing my own potential. After the competition, I felt invincible. The adrenaline still coursed through my veins, and with the medal hanging around my neck, I knew I had achieved something significant. But as I stepped down from the podium, the reality of my situation came crashing back down. I wasn't just there to celebrate my victory, I was there to confront the aftermath of betrayal. Laura approached me cautiously, her smile faltering as she took in my victorious demeanor. Mike, congratulations, she stammered, trying to find the right words. I could see the regret in her eyes, but I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. Thanks, I replied coolly, not wanting to let my guard down. You saw the competition, you saw who won. I let the weight of my words hang in the air between us. I know, and I'm sorry, Laura said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think it would come to this. I thought it was just fun. Fun. I shot back, my anger bubbling to the surface again. You call cheating on your husband fun. You didn't think about how it would hurt me, did you? You just thought about yourself. I could see the color drain from her face as my words hit their mark. It was clear she had come to realize the gravity of her actions, but I still felt no sympathy for her. I was done being the understanding husband. I messed up, Mike. I realize that now. I just got caught up in the excitement of it all. Jake made me feel alive, she explained, her voice trembling. But seeing you out there today, it reminded me of everything I lost. You're amazing, and I took you for granted. I wanted to believe her, to feel that flicker of hope that maybe she truly understood the weight of her betrayal, but I couldn't shake the feeling of hurt that boiled within me. You can't just waltz back into my life after what you did. You made your choice. You picked Jake over me, and now you have to live. With that, I replied, my voice steady. I never meant to hurt you, she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. I want to make it right. I miss you, Mike. I felt my heart waver for just a moment, but I quickly pushed that feeling aside. You should have thought about that before you decided to sleep with my rival. You've made your bed, Laura. Now you have to lie in it. With that, I turned away from her, leaving her standing there, a picture of regret and sorrow while I basked in the glow of my victory. The cheers and applause of my friends and supporters echoed around me, grounding me in my triumph. As the days passed, I focused on reclaiming my life. I dove deeper into my training, and my social calendar filled up with friends I hadn't seen in ages. I was surrounded by people who valued me, who appreciated my hard work, and who celebrated my victories. It felt good to be free from the constraints of a toxic relationship. But Laura didn't give up easily. She continued to reach out, sending messages and attempting to meet up. I ignored her calls and social media posts. I was determined to put distance between us and not allow her to manipulate my emotions any longer. One evening, as I was at the gym, I spotted Jake. He approached me with a smirk, confident and cocky as ever. Congratulations on the win, man. Didn't see that coming, he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. I felt my blood boil. You think this is over? You think you can waltz back into my life after what you did? I shot back, stepping closer to him, my fists clenched at my sides. He held up his hands defensively, but the smirk never left his face. Come on, Mike, it was just a fling. You know how relationships can get boring sometimes, right? That's just how it is. The arrogance in his voice was infuriating. You think I don't see what this is? You're riding high because I had my moment, but let's be real, you'll always be second best. Jake's smile faltered, anger flickering in his eyes. I could tell he was trying to provoke me, and a part of me wanted to take the bait. But the victory I had achieved was much more satisfying than any fight. Enjoy your moment, Mike. Just know that I'm not going anywhere. Laura wants me, and you'll always be in the background, he spat, trying to regain control of the situation. I took a deep breath. This wasn't just about Jake, it was about me asserting my worth. You think you won, you think she chose you. I was the one on the podium today. I'm coming back stronger, and I won't let either of you drag me down again. Remember that. With that, I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving him standing there in stunned silence. I felt empowered as I made my way back to my workout. Every moment spent focusing on my training was a reminder of my worth, my strength, and my resolve to rise above the betrayal I had endured. The more I distanced myself from Laura and Jake, the more clarity I gained. I had learned that my worth wasn't tied to anyone else. I had to keep pushing forward, reminding myself that they were the ones who had lost, not me. As I continued to focus on my training and reconnect with the people who mattered, I felt a sense of peace settling in. The chaos of betrayal was behind me, and I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it held. I knew I had the strength to move on. A few weeks had passed since the competition, and I was beginning to feel like myself again. My training was going well, and I was making solid progress on my fitness goals. I had a newfound sense of freedom and determination that propelled me forward. I spent more time with friends, rekindled old passions, and even started exploring new interests. It felt good to reclaim my life. But just when I thought I had moved on, Laura reached out again, this time with a desperate text. "Mike, we need to talk. Can we meet, please?" I stared at the screen, my heart racing. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to continue forging ahead without looking back. But another part of me was curious. What could she possibly say that would change anything? After deliberating for a few hours, I decided to meet her. I wasn't going to allow her to manipulate my emotions, but I felt it was important to get closure on this chapter of my life. We agreed to meet at a cafe downtown, a neutral space where we could talk without distractions. When I arrived, I spotted Laura sitting at a corner table, fidgeting with her hands. She looked different, more vulnerable, less confident than I remembered. Perhaps the weight of her choices was finally catching up with her. I approached her table, trying to keep my expression neutral as I sat down. "Thanks for meeting me," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's get to it. What do you want to say?" I replied, wanting to cut through any pretense and get to the heart of the matter. Laura took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. "I messed everything up, Mike. I know I said that before, but I really didn't understand what I had until it was gone. I thought I was having fun, but I lost sight of everything that mattered, especially you." I crossed my arms over my chest, bracing myself for the familiar emotions that threatened to resurface. "You had your chance, Laura. You made your choice. I'm not looking to rehash the past. Please just hear me out," she implored, her eyes pleading. "I've been going to therapy, trying to understand why I acted the way I did. I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I want to make amends." "Make amends?" I scoffed, my anger bubbling up again. "You think saying sorry after everything you did is enough? You think I could just forget the betrayal?" Laura nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, I don't expect forgiveness right away. I'm not asking for that. I just want you to know that I recognize the pain I caused you and that I'm truly sorry. I've realized that what I had with you was real. I don't want to lose you forever." Her words hung heavy in the air. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, but there was also a tiny flicker of something else. Could it be hope? I quickly pushed that thought aside. "You can't just say you want me back after what you did. What makes you think I would ever trust you again?" "I know I can't change the past, but I want to prove to you that I've changed. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust," she replied, her voice steadying. I looked at her, searching for any sign of sincerity. Part of me wanted to believe her. I had loved her once, but the memories of betrayal and heartbreak loomed large. "You have to understand that this isn't just about you anymore. I've been rebuilding my life without you, and I'm better for it. I'm not sure if I'm ready to open that door again." "I get that," Laura responded, wiping her tears. "I know I need to show you that I can be better, but I'm asking for a chance. Just one chance to prove it to you. No pressure, but I hope you'll think about it." Her request hung in the air, and I felt an internal struggle. On one hand, I wanted to believe that people could change, that love could triumph over betrayal. On the other hand, the scars she left were still fresh, and I wasn't ready to risk my heart again. "Let me think about it," I finally said, my voice measured. "But understand that trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight. It takes time." Laura nodded, her expression a mix of hope and despair. "I understand. I just hope you'll give me the chance to show you I'm serious." With that, we parted ways, and I felt the weight of her words linger in my mind. I spent the next few days wrestling with my emotions. Could I really give her another chance? I knew I had changed, but could I trust her again? It was a fragile dance between desire and caution. As I mulled over my options, I continued to focus on my training and personal development. I turned to my friends for support, relying on their perspectives to help shape my decision. Some encouraged me to consider a reconciliation, while others urged me to remain firm in my resolve to move on. For once, I felt at peace with the uncertainty of my relationship with Laura. The journey of self-discovery was empowering, and I didn't want to jeopardize that. I needed time to reflect, to truly understand what I wanted moving forward. Just when I thought I had reached a decision, I received a message from Laura. "I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I want to see you there. Please don't be mad. I just think it would help us talk more openly." I hesitated, torn between wanting to see her and the fear of reopening old wounds. After a long internal debate, I decided to go. I was curious about what she had to say, but I also wanted to show her that I had moved on. The next day, I arrived at the gym, my heart racing. I spotted Laura stretching on the mat, looking nervous yet determined. As I approached her, I could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice tentative. "I thought maybe working out together could help us reconnect." I nodded, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Let's get to it then." The workout started off awkwardly, filled with small talk and nervous laughter. But as we moved through our routines, I found myself slowly easing into the rhythm of our old dynamic. It felt strangely familiar, and despite the pain that lingered, I began to remember what I had loved about her. As we finished up, we sat on the bench, both panting and slightly sweaty. The air around us was charged with unspoken words. I took a deep breath and finally spoke. "You know, I'm not sure what the future holds for us, but I appreciate you reaching out. I'm still healing." "I know," she said softly, "and I'm willing to wait for however long it takes. I just want a chance." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a twinge of uncertainty, but also the faintest glimmer of hope. Maybe there was room for forgiveness, but only if I could truly believe in her sincerity. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself in a wrestling match with my emotions. I had started to spend more time with Laura again, and while I appreciated her efforts to change, I was constantly reminded of the betrayal that still lingered between us. It was a delicate balance. One moment, I'd feel a flicker of hope, and the next, the overwhelming weight of hurt would crash back into my mind. We resumed our workouts together regularly. It felt good to share that part of my life with her again, but every time I saw her, I couldn't shake the feeling of lingering doubt. I was becoming more aware of the little things, the way she would laugh a bit too loud to fill the silence, the nervous glances when the conversation turned personal, and her overly eager attempts to impress me. It was clear she was trying hard to prove herself, but I needed to know if it was genuine or just a temporary phase. One day, after an intense workout, we decided to grab smoothies at a nearby cafe. As we sat outside, the warmth of the sun washed over us, and for a brief moment everything felt normal. We chatted and laughed, but beneath the banter I sensed an underlying tension. "Mike, can I ask you something?" Laura said, her voice suddenly serious. "Sure," I replied, bracing myself for another heavy conversation. "Do you think we could ever really be okay again?" she asked, her eyes searching mine like she was trying to read my thoughts. "I know I messed up, and I don't want to keep bringing it up, but I also don't want to pretend it never happened." Her honesty struck me. It was refreshing, but it also made me question my own feelings. "I don't know, Laura, I'm trying to trust you, but it's hard. It feels like every time I let my guard down, I remember the pain." "I get that, I really do. I just want to show you that I've changed. I'm not the same person I was before," she said, her voice steady. "I hope you mean that," I replied, feeling a mixture of hope and skepticism. "But words can only go so far. You'll need to prove it to me over time." "I will," she promised, her expression earnest. "I want to earn back your trust. Just give me that chance." As we finished our smoothies, I felt a sense of relief mingled with uncertainty. It was a small step forward, but I knew there was still a long road ahead. I couldn't rush this process. I had to be patient with myself and with her. That weekend, I decided to host a small get-together with some friends. I wanted to see how Laura would interact in a more social environment. If she truly wanted to rebuild our relationship, she needed to show that she was committed to being part of my life. I invited a few close friends, and to my surprise, she accepted the invitation eagerly, excited to reconnect with everyone. The night of the gathering arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. I wanted everything to go smoothly. I had spent the day preparing snacks and drinks, trying to create an atmosphere that felt comfortable for everyone. When Laura arrived, she looked radiant, wearing a smile that instantly brightened the room. As the evening progressed, I watched her mingle with my friends. She laughed, shared stories, and seemed genuinely engaged. I felt a sense of pride that she was trying to fit in, but doubt still gnawed at the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of being on high alert, waiting for any signs that the old Laura might resurface. As the night wore on, I caught Laura stealing glances at me, her eyes reflecting a mix of hope and uncertainty. I was torn. I wanted to believe she was sincere, but I also wanted to protect myself. Around midnight, as the party began to wind down, I found myself alone with Laura on the balcony. The cool night air wrapped around us, and for a moment it felt like we were the only two people in the world. "Thanks for having me tonight," she said softly, her eyes shimmering in the moonlight. "I've missed this, I've missed us." I turned to her, feeling a rush of emotions. "I've missed this too," I admitted, "but I need to know you're committed to making this work. I can't go through another betrayal." "I am committed, I promise," she replied earnestly. "I'm done playing games. I want to build something real with you if you'll let me." Her sincerity washed over me like a wave, and for the first time in a while I felt a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. "I want to believe you, but we have a long way to go. It's going to take time for me to heal," I said, my voice steady. "I understand that," she said, reaching out to touch my hand. "I'm willing to wait. I just hope you'll let me show you how much I care." As she spoke, a part of me wanted to lean in and let the hope wash over me completely. But another part held back, reminding me of the pain I had experienced. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my own fears. "Let's take it one day at a time," I said finally. "I'm not ready to dive headfirst into anything just yet, but I'm open to seeing where this goes." Laura nodded, a smile breaking through her earlier tension. "That's all I ask, just one day at a time." As the night drew to a close, I couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. I had decided to keep my heart slightly ajar, allowing the possibility of healing and reconciliation. But I also knew I had to remain vigilant. In the days that followed, we continued to rebuild our relationship, one small step at a time. I was beginning to understand that forgiveness was a process, and it didn't mean forgetting the past. It was about learning to trust again, even when it felt difficult. As I navigated this uncharted territory, I realized that healing took time. And while I had a long way to go, I was ready to face it together, even if that meant moving forward with caution. As the weeks passed, I found myself navigating the complexities of rebuilding my relationship with Laura, and I was surprised by the progress we were making together. It wasn't always easy. We had tough conversations, and there were moments when old wounds threatened to resurface. But with each passing day, I felt a renewed sense of hope that perhaps we could create something new out of the ashes of our past. Laura continued to put in the effort. She was open and honest about her feelings and made a genuine effort to show me that she had changed. We began to communicate more effectively, discussing our needs and boundaries in a way we hadn't done before. It felt surreal to see this transformation in her, and while I remained cautious, I also recognized that she was striving to earn back my trust. One evening, we decided to go for a hike together. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the landscape, and I found myself feeling grateful for the moment. As we walked side by side, I couldn't help but admire the beauty of nature around us. It felt symbolic of our journey, learning to navigate the ups and downs together, finding our way back to each other. "Mike," Laura said, breaking the comfortable silence between us, "I want to thank you for being patient with me. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm grateful for the chance to prove myself." I glanced at her, her face earnest and hopeful. "I appreciate that, Laura. I'm trying to be patient, but it's a work in progress for both of us." "I get that," she replied. "I just want you to know that I'm committed to making this work. I've realized that I want a life with you. You mean so much to me, and I don't want to lose you again." Her words struck a chord, resonating deep within me. I had spent so long guarding my heart, but in that moment I felt a rush of warmth. "I want that too," I admitted, "but trust takes time. I need to know that I can rely on you." "I promise to be here for you," she said, reaching for my hand. "I'm all in, Mike, whatever it takes." As we continued our hike, I reflected on how far we had come. The path hadn't been easy, but we were learning to navigate it together. I was beginning to understand that the journey toward rebuilding trust wasn't about erasing the past. It was about acknowledging it and moving forward with a shared commitment to growth. A few weeks later, we attended a local event together, a fitness expo showcasing various athletes and wellness speakers. I was excited to see some familiar faces from the gym, and Laura seemed genuinely enthusiastic to be part of my world again. As we mingled with friends, I noticed that she fit in seamlessly, laughing and engaging with everyone. It felt good to see her thriving and embracing the new version of herself. Towards the end of the event, I spotted Jake across the room. The sight of him brought a rush of mixed emotions, but rather than feel anger, I felt a sense of closure. I had moved on, and I was no longer defined by my past. "Hey, look who it is," I said, gesturing to Laura. "Want to go say hi?" Laura hesitated for a moment, then nodded. As we approached Jake, I could see the surprise flicker across his face when he recognized us. "Mike, Laura, good to see you both," he said, forcing a smile. "Yeah, you too," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Just enjoying the expo. How have you been?" "Busy with training as usual. Always looking for my next competition," he said, puffing out his chest slightly. I wanted to roll my eyes but held back. "Glad to hear it. Best of luck, man." Laura remained silent but shot me a glance, her eyes filled with curiosity. There was an unspoken understanding between us. We were in this together, and the old tensions didn't matter anymore. As we walked away from Jake, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The shadow of his presence no longer held power over our relationship. "You handled that well," Laura remarked, glancing up at me with a smile. "Thanks," I replied, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. "I guess it's all part of moving on." "Speaking of moving on," she said, hesitating for a moment, "I've been thinking about how we can take a step forward together. Maybe we could plan a trip, something to celebrate our progress." I felt a surge of excitement at the idea. "That sounds great. Where were you thinking? How about a weekend getaway to the mountains? Just you and me, reconnecting and enjoying each other's company," she suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I love that idea," I said, feeling a sense of warmth. "It'll be a good opportunity for us to create new memories." As we discussed potential plans, I felt a sense of hope bloom in my chest. I was beginning to see that, while the road to healing could be rocky, it was also filled with moments of joy and connection. I had no idea what the future held for us, but I felt optimistic about taking it one step at a time. In the weeks leading up to our trip, I continued to work hard in the gym while also nurturing my relationship with Laura. We established new routines and traditions, including weekly date nights and random adventures that kept the spark alive between us. I found myself looking forward to spending time with her, laughing and growing together in ways I hadn't anticipated. Finally, the weekend getaway arrived, and we set off for the mountains. The drive was filled with music, laughter, and anticipation. As we settled into our cabin, I couldn't help but feel grateful for how far we had come. That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, I realized just how much I had learned through this journey. I had discovered the value of self-worth, the importance of communication, and the power of forgiveness. "Mike," Laura said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I just want to say thank you for giving me another chance. I promise to work every day to be the partner you deserve." I turned to her, feeling a wave of warmth wash over me. "You're welcome, and thank you for being honest and committed. We're in this together." As we sat together, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. While I couldn't predict the future, I knew that we had the tools to face whatever came our way. The scars of the past would always be there, but they served as reminders of our strength and resilience. As the stars began to twinkle above us, I realized that we were writing a new chapter together, one filled with hope, growth, and understanding. I wasn't just learning to forgive. I was learning to love again, slowly but surely. And that made all the difference.